This is a final exam review video, and the way that you're going to use this is you pause the video, work out the problems, and you can play the video, check your answers. So I'm going to work out the answers here. Go ahead and pause the video so you can check them later. So the first ones are just kind of order of operations problems. Always do. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. But you can put this in your calculator exactly as it is and get it right. So if you're putting this in the Wabbit calculator, 5 divided by 3 squared, which is 5 squared over 3 squared, you should get 25 over 9. Second one, do the exponent first. So I have 2 times 9 plus 4. Now multiplication comes first. That's 18 plus 4, which is 22. The third one, whenever you see parentheses, draw your lines, distribute negative 8x plus 10 plus 1. Combine like terms, negative 8x plus 11. That's an expression, so we're not doing anything further. Down here I have kind of a mix. Kind of separate the problem out by the pluses and minuses and work your way through the order of operations. So I do the exponent in the parentheses. So I have 5 minus 49 minus 24. And then just add left to right. So negative 44 minus 24, negative 68. Write an algebraic expression 5 more than a quotient of 10 and x. So more than, I put plus 5, adding 5 to something. The quotient of 10 and x. Order matters. So 10 over x plus 5, quotient means divide. Write an algebraic expression 7 less than x. With division and subtraction, the order matters. So if I'm 7 less than x, I'm taking 7 away from x. Okay, on to the second ones here. We have just some evaluating substitution problems. So when it says evaluate, it means we're plugging in these two numbers. So negative 6, plugging in negative 5 for y, minus 3 plus negative 5 squared. And try to use parentheses. I didn't use them in the middle there because you don't have that many expressions to put in. Then go ahead and follow your order of operations. Get your parentheses and your exponents all taken care of. So this is 48 plus 25, which is 73. Again, you could put everything in just like this on your Wabbit or your own calculator and get the answer. Just take the time to do it. Okay, is the ordered pair 2, negative 4 a solution? This is substitution. We're going to take out, and I'm going to write it with just parentheses and put in my variables. So x is 2, so 2 goes here. Y is negative 4. And we want to see if we end up with a true statement. So we have 4 minus 10 equals 12. Well, I know 4 minus 10 does not equal 12, so the answer would be no. Down here, a lot of simplifying. This is not a solving. This is a combining like terms. So the first thing I'm going to do is distribute. I'm going to rewrite everything. So I have plus 8x plus 4y. And then I'm going to distribute again. That's a negative 5. So I have a negative 5y plus 10 minus x. So go and get your like terms together. So I have all those y's. So that's negative 2 plus 4 is 2 minus 5, negative 3y. 8x minus x is 7x. And then 3 plus 10 is 13. That's all you can do. We combined all our like terms. Can't go any further with that. Now we have some solving equations. For most people, we want to get rid of the fraction. So if you're going to get rid of the fraction, you multiply by the denominator. So I'm going to multiply everything by 3. The key is you got to multiply everything by 3. So I get 33 equals 15. And then when I multiply this by 3, the 3's cancel out, and it's just x. It's not 3x. So minus 15, 18 equals negative x. Put a 1 there in front of that. You might even want to do that up here, just so you don't forget that that is actually a number. X equals negative 18. For the second one, draw the line. And then we have some distributing and combining like terms. So CLT, you got to keep that in mind. Before you can solve, you have to have one variable and one number expression on each side. So this is 5x minus 15 plus 15 equals 6x minus 3, and then minus 6x plus 3. So we're going to combine like terms. Over here, the negative 15 and positive 15 just get down to 5x. 6x minus 6x is 0. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So I have 5x equals 0. I've got to get x by itself. If you forget 0 divided by 5 is 0, put it in your calculator. It's not undefined or no solution. Okay, so we have now they're asking just about these three cases. One solution, all real numbers, no solution. That means when the variables go away, what's left? If it's true, like 0 equals 0, then it's infinite solutions, or all real numbers. If it's false, then it's no solution, so that would be no solution. This one we have to do a little simplifying. 3x equals 3x, well that's going to end up with 0 equals 0, so that's infinite solutions. This one to do, I have to divide both sides by 7. I get x equals 0. That's one solution. This one I could divide by negative 5 and be one solution. This one, I'm going to add 7x to both sides. Can't quite see that. And you get 0 equals 11x. Well, variables did not go away. I'm going to divide and get 0 as my answer. Next set is proportions. Cross multiply. So I have 21x equals 63. Divide by 21. X equals 3. This next one is just checking to see, do you understand the pattern that's here? So if I go from 5c to 10c, I multiply by 2. So 7d, that would be 14d. And the last one, see if I can move it up here a little bit. I need to cross multiply and be careful because I need to distribute. So I have 6b plus 30 equals 4b plus 36. And then it's just an equation. I'm going to get the numbers on one side and the variables on another. So I'm going to subtract 4b. So 2b plus 30 equals 36. I'm not going to be able to fit it, so I'm going to subtract 30 from both sides. I get 2b equals 6, b equals 3. Again, you should be pausing this and working it out, and then you can check the answers. Okay, new set of problems. Go ahead and pause it and work out your answers. At the start of the week, you had $100. And it looks like it's supposed to say you ended up with 140. What was the increase expressed as a percent change? This is one we haven't done very much, but you increased by 40, which if you started out with 100, that's a 40% increase. Don't worry about that one. That one's kind of snuck in there. We didn't do as much of that this year. Second one, convert 57 yards to feet. There are 3 feet in 1 yard. And so you can set this up as a proportion. 57 yards over x feet equals 1 yard over 3 feet. So yards over feet equal yards over feet. and cross multiply, and you get x equals 3 times 57, which is 171. Define a variable type equation. Solve. A lawyer charges a $100 fee up front, then charges $75 per hour of work. How long does he have to work to earn $625? So I'm just going to call x. X is the hours. The equation is he charges $100, and then 75 for every hour he works after that. He wants to earn $625. So the total, two things. This stays the same. This one's my variable, and so it's just a simple equation, two-step. Once you have it set up. By the way, that's cheap for lawyers. So 525 divided by 75 gets you the number of hours. So x equals 7. So the answer would be 7 hours. Depending on the problem, you might have to think about how you round or what your answer looks like. It took you 24 minutes to plant the first 3 rows of your garden. How long will you take it to expect to plant? It says 10 rows. So if it takes 24 for 3 rows, how long for 10 rows? There's 2 ways to do this. You can do this as a proportion, or you can say, I planted 1 row every 8 minutes. So when you cross multiply, you get 240 equals 3x, x equals 80. Or you can work it out the other way. On a multiple choice test, you're just trying to get the answer. You might have some other methods as well. Okay, so let's look at these problems. We're getting to inequalities, also some function substitution, kind of basic stuff. Remember, with an inequality, we're talking about making sure that our variable is on the left and the number we're looking at is on the right. And then we have rules. If the arrow is going this way, that's the same direction as the inequality. That's red. X is greater than -1. If this would have been a filled in dot, it would have been x is greater than or equal to -1. So the line underneath includes equal. Okay, and then with an inequality equation, you treat it just, or with an expression like that, you treat it just like an equation. So those cancel out. The only thing is, if you divide or multiply by a negative, you have to change this inequality sign. So x and -3. And then if we were going to graph this, we would flip the whole thing over so that we know we have -3, open circle, arrow going to the right. So you kind of flip twice in there. Evaluate h of -3. -3 you can plug in. So I have -3 minus 5. This is absolute value. That means when you get it down to one number, you always make it positive. So if this would have been 8, it would have also been 8. So -8 and 8, absolute value is how far that you are from 0. Graphing compound inequalities or inequality, more than one inequality, remember that you graph 2 different parts, and then if it's and, you only use the overlap. If it's or, you use everything and put it on the final graph. So first thing you gotta recognize is this is an and, because it's a compound. I'm gonna write it separately. And so you just kind of split it in half. You take that middle on both sides, and then you solve each of the inequalities. So I have 2n less than -16. Divide by 2. I did not divide by a negative. Just because you get a negative doesn't mean that's dividing by a negative. So this is, if I flip it over, this is n is greater than -8. So that would be right here. Arrow going that way. I'm going to solve this one. You're going to notice on these it's the same steps for solving. It's not the same answer. But you're subtracting 12 and dividing by 2 on both of them. And then it's less than or equal to 7. And often the inequalities that face each other, then your final answer is going to be this part that overlaps in the middle. So I'm going from -8 to 7. I'm going to erase here, make some room. So the second one says or, so we know it's an or. So I just need to solve each of the inequalities. So plus 10, a is less than or equal to negative 5. Just because I get a negative does not mean that I flip the inequality. It's when I divide. Now this one I'm going to divide by a negative. So I get a greater than or equal to, so it switches, negative 3. Since it's or, I put both of these as my final answer. They don't have to overlap. They can, but they don't have to. So or, it just takes everything and put it on one big number line together. Last one here, it says and, so it's not the compound where they're together, they're split apart. So I'm going to solve each one. So 5x less than negative 35, divide by 5, x is less than negative 7, minus 6, and I get greater than or equal to negative 7. So this is a tricky one. I only have negative 7. So I'm less than negative 7 this way, and I'm greater than or equal to negative 7 that way. So we're looking for where they overlap. Well, the only place they overlap is negative 7, but this one includes negative 7, this one doesn't. So this would be no solution. That's a tricky one. So if an and one, when you're doing an and problem, if they're not facing, if the two arrows are not facing towards each other, you're going to have no solution because they aren't going to overlap. Unless they're both going one direction. We don't see very many of those. They're both going one direction, then you have some other tricky overlap. Okay, so write inequalities here. Pause it, go ahead and write your inequalities, and we'll check. And you're looking for open circle, closed circle, and then the direction of the arrow. So first one, closed circle. So I know it's an equal to. Arrow is going to the right, and my number is 5. This one is also closed circle. Arrow is going to the left with 5. Open circle, arrow to the left with 5. Open circle, arrow to the right. Closed circle, arrow to the left. Open circle, arrow to the right. It's pretty straightforward. Now these down here are writing our compound inequalities. So if you see the arrows going the opposite way, you know it's an or. So I have one on the left, which is x is less than negative 2, and then I have one on the right, so I'm saying or x is greater than 3. This middle one, x is between two numbers. It's between 3 and it's between negative 2. Or you could write x is greater than negative 2 and x is less than 3. Last one, same kind, it's an and. It's between negative 2 and 3, only they're equal to those values. So again, you could write the two words out if you want. Again, pause the video, take a look at the question. Circle which graph represents the situation. Johnny was at school, talked to his friends for a while before starting home. A few minutes later, after he left school, he realized he had forgotten his math homework. Johnny immediately turned around, walked back to school, got his homework, and then finished his walk home. So we have distance and time. And so it doesn't really say if distance was distance from home, but that's what I'm going to assume here with this graph. So since he started at school, so it says Johnny was at school, that means he's not at home. That means his distance from home is right here. So he started walking home and forgot his math homework. So he went back, got it, and then walked all the way home. Okay, so always check the y-axis out. This one would have been he was at home, he walked somewhere, and was there for a certain amount of time, and then walked back home. And this is the same thing, just different slopes. This one is he left home, walked somewhere, started walking back towards home, stayed there a while, walked back home. Okay, answer the following questions about this table. how long did it take to reach the maximum temperature? So right here, if you look at the table, this thing is something that's heating up and then cooling down. Right here's the maximum temperature. So it took 4 hours to get to that point. And then it stayed there for a little bit and then it got back down. Describe what's happening to the temperature between 4 and 6 hours. It's constant. Constant means it's not changing at all. What is the domain of the function of the relation? So we're listing all the x values. 4, -1, 4 again. I'm not listing it because you don't list numbers twice. 8 and -1. I'm not listing -1 again. And put the little brackets to make the people happy. So you can put an order. It is not a function because I would have had to write 4 twice and -1 twice. So that if the x's repeat, it's not a function. The range is the y value. So I have 7, 3, 0, 9, 5. Put the little brackets to make the people happy. Evaluate g of -4 for the function. The best way to do this is to take a step here and set everything up and then put your number in, so that you can put it right in your calculator and let your calculator do the order of operations. If you don't put parentheses in, you're going to get this wrong. Stop being lazy. So -4 squared is 16. So this would be 2 times 16 plus 12 plus 1. So 32, 44, I think 45. 13 plus 32, yep. All right, this is the part that we have been spending the most time on recently. I'm not going to spend as much time here. Kind of hit some highlighted places. So make sure you know what the question's asking. Find the slope. So to find the slope, you're just going to pick any 2 points and use your formula. If it's asking you if the slope's constant, you'll need to find it between a couple of the equations. Write the equation in slope-intercept form as shown on each graph. You guys are pretty good at this. Y equals mx plus b. And just go to the graph, find the value. Don't forget about slope, dude. Okay, most of you get the b value right all the time, and sometimes you forget that this is where slope, dude, is negative. So that slope's negative. This one, he's going puff positive, so this has a positive slope. And plug those in. To graph anything like this, you either need to find the intercepts, which most of you don't do, or you need to solve for y. You can't just look at it and graph stuff. You're not magical. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. So I have -2x plus 15. Divide everything by -5. Most common mistake is people forget to bring that down. And then when you get to this point, you're usually pretty good at graphing, but that is not the same as that. So change it to what you're good at. Okay, and the last thing here is write the equation of the line. We've spent so much time on this. I should say equal to. Your summary of your steps. Y equals mx plus b. How you start. Do I know the slope? So if I know the slope, I plug it in. I don't know the slope here, so I have to find it. So -2 minus -5 over 4 minus 5. That's 3 over 1, so 3. And then you plug the slope in. And you can pick either point to plug in and solve for b. That's how you do it every time. Plug the slope. Sometimes they just give you the slope. Like on this one, it says parallel to this line. There's my slope. So I'm starting out with y equals -6x plus b. I got my slope. Don't worry about that 5. Doesn't mean anything. Last thing on the review video is which graph represents a function, and the best way to do this is to go and can you draw a vertical line and hit only one point? If you hit more than one point, it's not a function. So that one would be no. This one, I could draw a bunch of vertical lines and I still only hit one point along the way. Vertical line hits 2 points. So this one was yes. This one is no and no. The other thing is sometimes you have them with points like this, where it's just scattered points. If I can still draw a line and hit 2 points on the graph, then it's a no. So that's a good review. We'll have the marker board review in class. There's the quiz is. You just need to practice doing problems. Make sure you have the linear equation stuff done. That's it.